Have you ever lain awake in bed at midnight, eyes wide open, heart racing? Not because something terrible happened, but simply because of a vague sense of unease? Worried that you're not good enough, afraid that tomorrow might bring failure, anxious about what others think of you, and worst of all, fearing that you might never overcome this quiet restlessness inside. I've been there more than once, and I used to think, maybe I'm just weak. Maybe men aren't supposed to feel fear. But then I started turning to old pages, writings from people who lived thousands of years ago, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. And strangely enough, their words, ancient as they were, spoke directly to what I was feeling in this modern life. That's when I realized I don't have to conquer fear all at once. I just have to learn how to walk through it, one small step at a time. You see, the world today doesn't lack advice. Stay positive. Just believe in yourself. We hear it everywhere. But Stoicism doesn't tell us to deny our emotions. It teaches us to face them and not let them rule our lives. When I began to apply those teachings, I didn't turn into some emotionless Superman. I still worried. I still felt fear. But fear no longer paralyzed me. I learned how to stay calm in the middle of the storm. And today I want to share with you 6 Stoic quotes that I've held on to during my darkest moments. Not to give you a quick dose of motivation, but to offer you something deeper, an inner compass to help you find your way when life feels off course. If you've ever felt drained, if fear and doubt have been choking the joy out of your life, then stay with me in this video. We're not going to fight fear with brute force. We're going to face it with the quiet strength of a man who knows the value of stillness. And if this is your first time here, I invite you to subscribe to the True Stoic Way channel. Because here, you won't just find philosophy, you'll find a way of living, strong but peaceful. 1. The only thing we have control over is our thoughts. Epictetus. There's a story I don't often tell, but today it feels worth sharing. When I was younger, I worked a job I absolutely hated. My boss had a fiery temper, my coworkers were cutthroat, and the whole place buzzed with pressure and rumors. Every morning felt like stepping onto a battlefield. I'd check my phone the way a soldier checks for landmines, terrified of a scolding text, dreading an urgent email from management. I lived in nameless anxiety, and the worst part? I kept thinking, if only people would change, if the environment were different, if my boss were less harsh, then I'd be okay. That day never came. Then one afternoon, I stumbled across a single simple line from Epictetus, a philosopher born into slavery who somehow left behind words more liberating than anyone else's. The only thing we have control over is our thoughts. At first, I shrugged. True, but too simple, I thought. Then I paused. If that's the only thing I truly control, why am I spending my life trying to control everything else? We assume peace arrives when the world outside finally calms down. Stoicism offers a different lens. Peace doesn't come from the world. It comes from how we think about the world. I decided to test that idea right there at the same job. Same office, same boss, same cutting remarks. The only thing I changed was my inner response. When my boss blew up, I no longer replayed his words for hours. Instead, I'd ask, what can I actually do better? Is this worth my mental bandwidth? His anger is his business. My reaction is mine. I didn't respond right away. I refused to let raw emotion drive the wheel. After work, I started journaling. Not to complain, but to watch my own thoughts. Something strange happened. The anxiety faded. Not because the world changed, but because I stopped handing it the keys to my inner life. Do you see yourself in any of this? Maybe your world feels chaotic, job loss, a breakup, family tension, or just that unease you get scrolling social media. In all of it, one question is worth asking. In this situation, what is truly under my control? Not people's opinions, not the outcome, not the future, just your thoughts. How you frame the problem, how you talk to yourself, how you choose to respond. Stoicism isn't about denying emotion. It's about aiming it at something useful. You might feel fear, doubt, but you don't let fear be the pilot of your life. I know it's not easy. But imagine if you genuinely believed you could steer your own thinking. How would that feel? Maybe you'd finally sleep instead of spiraling over things beyond reach. Maybe you'd focus on today's small tasks instead of catastrophizing tomorrow. Maybe you'd start to see real strength, not in how much you achieve, but in how steady you stay when the waves rise. Try a simple exercise. Next time you feel anxiety rising, pause a few seconds and ask, is this within my control? If yes, take action. If no, let it go and return to what is yours to steer. Your thoughts. You don't have to do it perfectly. Just repeat. Every day, even once, is progress. In the end, the real enemy isn't out there. It's in the way we talk to ourselves. Epictetus's line isn't mere philosophy. It's a compass for anyone wrestling with fear and doubt. You can't command the storm, but you can learn to sail. And the sail, well, that's your mind. If you're at that point in life where everything outside feels wild and uncontrollable, stick around on True Stoic Way. I'm not here to tell you to become someone else. I'm here to share what's helped me come back to myself. Wisdom that survived thousands of years. Subscribe to the channel, because you deserve inner calm, no matter what the world looks like out there. 2, it is not events themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about those events. Epictetus. I used to think the things that hurt me were the things happening out there. A breakup, a betrayal by someone I trusted, getting fired by a boss before I ever had the chance to prove myself. I remember that night clearly, just after packing up my things from the office. I sat alone at my usual cafe. My coffee was going cold and my head was echoing with the same questions. Why me? What did I do wrong? How did everything fall apart so quickly? I spiraled into negative thoughts, believing I was inadequate, a failure, unworthy of trust, unworthy of love. But the truth was, what hurt me wasn't the event itself. It was the story I kept telling myself about it. Then one day, as I was reading the discourses by Epictetus, I came across this sentence. It is not events themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about those events. And you know what? It hit me like a lightning bolt of clarity. The event is one thing. The story we tell ourselves about the event, that's something else entirely. Take this example. A woman gets dumped by her boyfriend. One person might say, I'm not good enough, no one wants me. Another might say, maybe we just weren't right for each other. This could be a chance to learn how to love myself. Same event, but one person crumbles, the other grows. The difference isn't in what happened, it's in the perspective. I started revisiting the painful experiences in my own life and asking, is there another way to look at this? I got fired. Maybe that door had to close so a better one could open. Someone I trusted betrayed me. Maybe this is a lesson in placing my trust more wisely. A relationship ended. Maybe it was already broken, and this was my release. I wasn't trying to philosophize my pain away. I was learning to reframe my perspective, from a passive victim to an active observer with a choice. Reframing, the art of changing the frame. In modern psychology, this concept is known as reframing. You don't deny the facts. You simply place the picture inside a different frame, and suddenly you see a new story. And that frame, it shapes how you feel. A story told with clarity and self-awareness and can become a turning point. But a story told through blame, guilt, or fear becomes a burden. I remember another moment. A close friend, someone I had known for years, suddenly blocked me on every platform. No explanation, nothing. I was angry, hurt. I kept wondering, what did I do to deserve that? But after a few days of emotional chaos, I tried to apply Epictetus's wisdom. I asked myself, does their silence really define my worth? Or is it just their reaction, rooted in their own inner world I may never understand? I stopped clinging to the need for answers. I let go of the resentment. And in that silence, I found peace. Practice. How to reframe in daily life. Here's a simple guide to apply reframing in your own life. When something happens, pause. Don't react immediately. Breathe and ask yourself, what's really happening here? What story am I telling myself about this? Separate the event from your emotions. Write it down. Objective event, no emotion. I was rejected from a job. My reaction? I feel like I'm not good enough. Then ask, would everyone react the same way? Find another frame. Ask, if this happened to a friend, what would I tell them? Could this actually be a hidden blessing? Make it a daily practice. Like building muscle, reframing takes repetition. Each day, take one small irritation and try seeing it from a different angle. Stoicism doesn't tell you to ignore your emotions. It teaches you not to let them cloud the truth. Epictetus was right. It's our judgments that weigh us down, not the events themselves. If you can learn to observe your thoughts with a bit of distance, you'll realize no event has the power to break you unless you hand it that power. No rejection can truly define you unless you accept it as truth. No pain lasts forever if you learn to look at it through a wiser lens. And if these ideas are helping you gain more clarity in your life, I invite you to continue this journey with me on True Stoic Way. You don't need a grand awakening overnight. Just shift your perspective quietly, consistently, one day at a time. Because sometimes you don't need to change the world. You just need to change how you see the world. 3. The good life is a process, not a state of being. Epictetus. There was a point in my life when all I wanted was stability. I thought if I could just land a decent job, find someone who truly understood me, and save a little money, everything would fall into place. Happiness would arrive. Peace would finally show up. But strangely, every time I reached something I once dreamed of, the sense of relief only lasted a few days. Then a new worry would creep in. A new goal would replace the old one. A fresh pressure would emerge. Eventually, I realized I was living as if I was trying to arrive at some final destination. But there is no final destination. And when I came across this line in the writings of the Stoics, things finally clicked. The good life is a process, not a state of being. A good life isn't a place you arrive at. It's something you live through day by day. We don't live to reach the top of a mountain. We live to learn how to walk through the hills. I used to think one day I'll no longer feel anxious. I'll stop doubting myself. I'll wake up full of energy and joy. But that day never came. There are still days I feel exhausted, still moments where I question everything about myself. And you know what? That's not failure. That's life. The question is no longer, how do I stop being afraid? But rather, can I keep walking even while afraid? I remember something an older mentor once told me. Happiness isn't a finish line at the end of the road. It's how you walk each step without losing yourself. That sentiment resonates with Stoicism more than anything. The Stoics never promised eternal joy or a flawless life. They taught us how to live rightly, kindly, ethically, and with inner calm, no matter what life throws our way. Progress, not perfection. One of the most transformative shifts in my life was letting go of the idea that I had to be perfect. I used to push myself to become the ideal man, completely disciplined, emotionless, always strong, never shaken. But the truth is, we're human. You're gonna fall short some days. You're going to get angry. You'll stumble. You'll feel tired. The point isn't to avoid all mistakes. The point is to rise each time with a lesson in your hand. That's the journey. You know, I once lost a relationship because I thought I wasn't ready for love, because I hadn't become perfect yet. But looking back, I realized none of us arrive at some perfect version of ourselves before being worthy of love. We learn to love and live better through the process, not before it. Flow with life. Don't try to force yourself into a fixed mold. Life is constantly shifting. And when you attach your peace to a perfect state, you're placing it on fragile ground. One unexpected event, one rejection, one failure can shatter that state. But when you see life as an open-ended journey, every step, even the backward ones, holds value. How to live life as a process, every single day. Instead of aiming to eliminate fear, aim to act in spite of it. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action taken while fear still lingers. Rewrite your daily story. Don't just journal, I failed today. Instead, write, today I learned this from my failure. Make every day a record of growth, not guilt. Slow down and remember you're on a path. Every kind gesture, every time you choose calm over anger, every time you reflect instead of react, is forward motion. The Stoics never promised we'd never suffer. They simply gave us tools so we wouldn't be drowned by suffering. When you realize the good life isn't somewhere you arrive, but something you live in this very moment, you stop pressuring yourself and you start embracing yourself along the way. You stop asking, when will I finally be okay? And begin living as if I'm okay, even if I'm not perfect yet. And if these words are helping you reflect on how you're living, I invite you to keep walking this path with me, right here on True Stoic Way. This isn't about building some glamorous journey. It's about sharing something honest, drawn from real experience and contemplation, so that together we can walk forward a little more calmly each day. Subscribe to the channel if you believe that. Peace is not a destination, it's how we walk with each step. 4. Silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings. Seneca. There was a time in my life when I believed that having the right words could fix anything. I thought that if I had just explained myself clearly enough, if I defended my point calmly enough, if I spoke up with logic and sincerity, then people would understand. But life humbled me. I learned that truth doesn't always win in noise, that some people aren't listening to understand, they're listening to reply, to argue, or to feel superior. And in that lesson, I discovered something that changed me. Silence is not weakness. Sometimes it's the highest form of strength. When I stopped trying to explain myself to everyone, I found peace. I remember a conversation with someone close to me, someone who misunderstood me deeply. They accused me of being selfish, distant, and uncaring. My first instinct? Defend myself. Pull out every text message, every act of kindness I had shown, every word they seemed to forget. But something in me said, don't. Not out of spite, not out of arrogance, but because I finally understood. No amount of explaining that can make someone see what their heart refuses to accept. So I stayed silent. I let the storm pass, and I walked away, not bitter, not broken, but grounded. Silence in the Stoic sense is not avoidance, it's control. Seneca once said that silence is a form of wisdom born from suffering, because when you have been burned enough times by pointless arguments, when you've exhausted yourself trying to be understood, you start to realize not everything requires your voice. Some things require your discipline. You begin to ask, is this worth my energy? Will speaking make this better or just louder? Am I trying to speak from truth or from ego? When the answer points to ego, that's when silence becomes your power. Respond, don't react. Stoicism teaches that reaction is impulsive, but response is thoughtful. And silence creates space for response. Someone disrespects you. You pause. You don't lash out. You don't beg for their approval. You simply step back and let your calmness speak louder than their chaos. I've learned this especially when dealing with toxic people, the ones who thrive on pulling you into emotional battles. You know what frustrates them the most? When you don't play their game, when you remain unmoved, when you choose silence, not out of fear, but out of composure. What silence gives you? Clarity. In silence, your thoughts settle. You hear your own voice, not just the noise around you. Strength. You no longer seek validation through argument. You validate yourself through action. Freedom. You stop being chained to the need to fix how others see you. You become free to just be. How to apply Stoic silence in daily life. Pause before reacting. When someone says something that stings, ask, is this worth responding to? If not, breathe. Let it pass. Don't give it power. Use journaling as your voice. Write what you want to say, but don't send it. Express your emotions without letting them rule your relationships. Let actions speak. Instead of arguing about your value, live it. Instead of explaining your growth, embody it. Know your audience. Not everyone deserves your explanation. Some people need your absence more than your words. Stoic silence is not cold, it's conscious. It doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop allowing your feelings to leak into places that won't hold them with care. It means you speak less and mean more. You listen to others, but especially to yourself. Because the longer you walk through this life, the more you realize silence isn't the absence of something. It's the presence of self-control. Let them underestimate your silence. They might think you're weak. They might think they won because you didn't fight back. Let them. The truth is, you don't need to win arguments when you've already won your peace. You don't need to explain your value when you're living in alignment with it. Let them talk. Let them assume. You stay rooted. You stay still. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough not to waste yourself. Final reminder, you don't owe the world an explanation for every choice, every change, every boundary you draw. You owe it to yourself to protect your energy, to choose peace over proving and presence over performance. And that, my friend, is the essence of Stoic silence. If this part resonated with you, if you've ever been tired of justifying your soul to people who weren't really listening, I invite you to continue walking with me here on True Stoic Way. This space isn't about being louder. It's about being truer to yourself, to your principles, to your path. So hit subscribe if you're ready to make silence your strength and stillness your superpower. Because the man who can sit with his silence is already louder than the world. 5. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Epictetus. There's something haunting about always reaching, always craving, always feeling like you're just one step away from being enough. I used to live with that feeling. If I just had a bit more money, if I had that relationship, if my work finally got recognized, then I could breathe, then I'd be content. But the more I got, the further the finish line moved. It felt like chasing a horizon. No matter how far I walked, it never came any closer. And then I read this quote by Epictetus. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. I stopped because something in me knew it was true. I just hadn't been living that way. Gratitude is not a feel-good exercise, it's a discipline. You see, modern life trains us to want more. We're bombarded with messages that say, you're behind. Someone else is doing better. You should be more successful by now. Social media alone is a masterclass in engineered dissatisfaction. But Stoicism teaches something radically different. Gratitude is a form of wisdom. To rejoice in what you have is not weakness, it's clarity. When I started focusing on what was still mine, my health, my mind, a few loyal friends, my ability to choose my attitude, something changed. I didn't feel settled or small. I felt free because I finally understood. The root of suffering is not lack, it's comparison. Modern expectations versus ancient peace. We live in a time where even a good, simple life is no longer enough. If your apartment isn't aesthetic, if your body doesn't look like it was sculpted for Instagram, if your job isn't making 6 figures or changing the world, you're taught to feel less than. But what if peace wasn't in catching up, but in slowing down enough to realize you were never behind in the first place? That's the shift Stoicism gave me. I stopped asking, why don't I have more? And started asking, why don't I see more of what I already have? You'll never win the game of more. Let me say this plainly. If you don't know how to appreciate what you have now, you won't appreciate what's next either. I've seen people get what they always wanted, the money, the body, the partner, the business, and still they were miserable because their internal dialogue never changed. They were still focused on what was missing. They didn't need more success. They needed more stillness. Gratitude isn't passive, it's powerful. It doesn't mean you stop growing. It means you grow from a place of fullness, not from lack. You wake up and say, I have a body that moves today. I have air in my lungs. I have a chance to speak kindly to someone. I have lessons from my pain, not just scars. This mindset shift doesn't make life perfect. It makes it livable, sustainable, peaceful. How to practice Stoic gratitude daily. Start the day by naming 3 things you already have, not just materially, but mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. even if it's as simple as a quiet morning or a chance to try again. Every time you catch yourself saying, I need, pause and reframe it to I already have. Watch how your energy changes. Practice in ordinary moments. The cup of coffee, the walk outside, the silence before the world wakes up. These are the things the Stoics revered because they are always within reach. Turn envy into admiration. When you see someone doing well, don't say, why not me? Say, well, I am. That's possible for humans, and I'm human too. Then return to your own path, anchored in what you value. Real contentment isn't about shrinking dreams. It's about shifting perspective. You can still dream big, still build, still strive. But when your inner peace no longer depends on external gains, that's when your power becomes unshakable. Epictetus lost everything, his freedom, his status, his physical well-being, but he had his mind. He had control over his thoughts, and he practiced daily joy with what remained. That's not weakness. That's mastery. What do you already have? Think about it. Right now, wherever you are, you have survived your worst day. You have learned lessons others haven't had the courage to face. You have breath and time and a chance to live today with integrity. That's wealth. That's abundance. That's what the wise man celebrates, not what he lacks. Final thought. True gratitude is not about denying what's hard. It's about not letting what's missing blind you to what's here. When you rejoice in what you have, you reclaim your strength, you recenter your soul, and suddenly life feels less like a battle and more like a blessing. If you've been caught in that endless loop of not enough, if you're tired of measuring your worth by what you lack, then I invite you to stay with me here on True Stoic Way. Here, we don't escape reality, we anchor ourselves in it. We remember that simplicity is strength, that stillness is success, and that gratitude is a Stoic superpower. So hit subscribe, not because this channel will change your life, but because it will remind you of the power you've had all along. You already have enough. You already are enough. Now live like it. 6. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Marcus Aurelius. I once heard someone say, life isn't about what happens to you, it's about what you do with what happens. At the time, I nodded politely. It sounded wise enough. But it wasn't until life really knocked me flat that I understood what it meant. You see, there was a moment, a very real, very dark moment, when everything I thought I could depend on fell apart. Plans, gone. People I trusted, walked away. Certainties, crumbled overnight. I sat there in the ruins of what I thought was my life, and it felt like the pain would swallow me whole. But eventually I remembered this quote from Marcus Aurelius. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. I read it again and again, until it finally clicked. Pain is real, but how we interpret pain decides what it becomes. We can't avoid every loss, betrayal, or disappointment, but we can question the story we attach to them. Marcus wasn't saying, don't feel pain. He was saying, you have the power to separate pain from panic, from doom, from self-destruction. I started asking myself hard questions. Is this really the end? Am I making this situation mean more than it needs to? Could this somehow be redirecting me, not destroying me? Your interpretation is your responsibility. It's easy to think that outside events create our suffering. A breakup? That person made me feel unworthy. Losing a job? That company ruined my life. Being misunderstood? They took away my peace, but Stoicism invites us to pause and ask, did they really do all that? Or did I assign that meaning to what happened? It's not about blaming ourselves, it's about reclaiming power. Because the moment you realize that your judgment is the filter through which pain becomes suffering, is the moment you realize you can change the filter. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, I was publicly criticized for a decision I made. One I believed in fully. At first, I was crushed. I thought, everyone's against me. I must have failed. This ruins everything I've worked for. I avoided people, lost sleep, questioned my worth, but over time I went back to that Stoic lesson. I asked, what if this criticism isn't a curse but feedback? What if it's not the world attacking me, but life refining me? Suddenly the same event had a new shape. It became a turning point, not a tombstone. And I learned that events don't define you, your response does. Fear and doubt feed off our misinterpretations. Fear whispers, this pain means you're broken. This failure proves you're not good enough. This silence means they've stopped loving you. But you know what Stoicism teaches? Pain is information, not identity. You don't have to internalize every blow. You don't have to interpret every loss as a signal of your worth. You get to say, this hurts, yes, but I will decide what it means. This moment isn't who I am, it's just where I am. And where I am can change, starting with how I think. Practical ways to revoke your estimate of pain. Write it out before you react. What happened? What meaning are you attaching to it? Is there another meaning that empowers you instead of paralyzing you? Practice saying, this is just a moment, not my whole story. It sounds simple, but when repeated, it rewires your instinct to catastrophize. Challenge your first reaction. Ask, is this interpretation helping or hurting me? If it's hurting, rewrite it, even slightly. Remember past disasters you grew from. Use your past resilience as proof. You've survived before, you're wiser now. Let that shape how you process the present. You are not powerless in the face of chaos. What Marcus Aurelius gave us in that quote is not philosophy, it's a survival tool. Because life will continue to be unpredictable. Things will continue to break, change, and challenge us. But our interpretation, that's where our sovereignty lies. You can't always calm the storm, but you can stop feeding the winds with fear. You can't always control the outcome, but you can control the meaning you take from the experience. And sometimes that's more than enough. Final reflection. Next time you're overwhelmed by fear or doubt or the ache of unexpected change, pause and ask, is the thing hurting me right now the event itself? Or is it the meaning I've attached to it? And if it's the latter, you can change it. You can revoke the power you gave it. You can write a new meaning, one that strengthens you instead of weakening you. That's what the Stoics did, and it's what you can do too. If this idea speaks to where you are in life right now, if you're learning to stop reacting and start reinterpreting your pain with clarity, then stay with me here on True Stoic Way. This space is not about being perfect. It's about practicing power through perception. So subscribe, because every time you reclaim the meaning behind your pain, you become a little more free. And that right there is the beginning of courage. So you've heard the quotes. You've sat with the words of Epictetus, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius. Each one offers a window into truth, a truth that cuts through fear, untangles doubt, and reminds you, you are not powerless, you are not broken, you are not alone. But insight alone is not enough. If we don't live these ideas, they fade like words in the wind. So the question now becomes, how do we take Stoic wisdom and put it into motion day by day? Step 1, start where you are. You don't need a crisis to begin practicing Stoicism. You only need honesty. Think about your own life. What is one situation that brings you fear, anxiety, or self-doubt? Is it a relationship that drains you? A decision you're avoiding? A pattern of overthinking? Now ask yourself, what would a Stoic do here? Which of the 6 quotes speaks directly to this? Let me give you a real example from my own life. There was a time I was holding on to resentment after a fallout with someone I loved deeply. I kept replaying the last words, the silence that followed, the sense of abandonment. One night I wrote in my journal, I can't control their actions. I can only control my thoughts. And with that, I stopped rewriting the story to blame them or blame myself. I simply accepted it. And in doing so, I freed myself. These aren't philosophical rituals. These are tools for living. Journaling, like Marcus Aurelius did. Each evening ask, what did I fear today? How did I respond? What can I improve tomorrow? The circle of control exercise inspired by Epictetus. Draw 2 circles, One for what you can control and one for what you can't. Focus your energy only on the first. Morning reflection, evening stillness. In the morning, prepare your mind for chaos. At night, return to calm. Both are equally sacred. Reframing thoughts. Replace "why is this happening to me?" with "what is this teaching me about myself?" Practice purposeful silence, especially in moments of provocation. Learn to withhold reaction. As Seneca taught, silence is strength, not surrender. The truth is, Stoicism isn't something you try like a motivational quote of the day. It's something you become, slowly and quietly, over time. And yes, it will be hard. Some days you'll remember to pause before reacting. Other days you'll slip into old habits. But every day you return to this one truth. I can't control everything, but I can control who I become in the face of it. You'll find that the more you practice, the less reactive you become. Not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger. You'll stop fearing discomfort because now you see it as your teacher. You'll stop chasing approval because now you value your own self-respect more. And most importantly, you'll stop running from fear. Because now you know how to walk through it with calm. That's the Stoic way. Let's take a moment to reflect back. The only thing we have control over is our thoughts. Peace begins the moment you stop trying to control the world and start mastering your mind. It is not events themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about those events. You suffer not because of what happened, but because of how you chose to see it. The good life is a process, not a state of being. There's no final destination. You're already in the journey. Make it intentional. Silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings. Not every truth needs to be shouted. Sometimes peace is louder than defense. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Gratitude is the quiet resistance against modern dissatisfaction. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Meaning is not found in what happens. It's created by how you interpret it. These 6 teachings aren't just quotes. They're mental armor. They're inner maps for navigating chaos, heartbreak, uncertainty, and the voices in your head telling you you're not enough. You are, and now you have the mindset to begin walking like it. If any part of this video spoke to your soul, if even one quote made you pause and think, "That's what I've needed to hear," then don't let it end here. This is not just content. This is a path, and I'm inviting you to walk it with me. Subscribe to the channel, True Stoic Way, not because we chase viral moments, but because we believe in timeless truths, because we know that in a world full of noise, there is strength in stillness, and because men and women everywhere, in silence, are choosing to grow stronger, one thought at a time. And if you feel brave, leave a comment. Tell me which quote hit you hardest, or what fear you're ready to face with a stoic heart. Let's build a space where wisdom isn't just admired, it's practiced. One thought, one breath, one day at a time. You don't need to become someone new. You just need to remember who you are when you're calm, honest, and courageous. That person, he's already inside you. Let's bring him forward, the Stoic way.